Hey guys, I'm Jeff Sheets here for TrueFire's Guitar Shed. In this episode, we've got some great tips on the soloing and soloing approaches. We have 4 lessons from 4 amazing instructors: Shane Theriault, Andy Timmons, Dweezil Zappa, and Tim Miller. Now these are all individual lessons, but they're taken from full-blown courses that live over at TrueFire.com. So if you want to check out the full course, if you want to get the tab and the jam tracks to go with these lessons, just click on the links in the description below. Up first, we've got a great lesson from Shane Theriault that shows us how to lift some cool pentatonic licks from iconic sax players. This particular lick comes from Michael Brecker. Check this one out.
Learning patterns from other instruments, transcribing sequences, licks, etc. from saxophone players, piano players. It's something I've done a lot when I was practicing when I was a lot younger. These are some shapes that I've found useful to get out of ruts. So here's a really good pattern I like a lot. It's a beautiful melodic shape. It's from the great saxophone player Michael Brecker, and it would be over C minor 7. It's based out of this pentatonic shape. Okay, now a lot of guitar players, when you're learning, these kind of shapes, all these kind of guitar-esque shapes are hard to break out of. There's nothing wrong with them. They've been played to death. So sometimes this is a breath of fresh air, even though it's very simple. The lick goes like this, the sequence. So you're starting on the low note, up a whole step, minor third, then up a 5th. That's the gist of the lick. So it sounds like this. And it also works over the relative major, which would be E flat. It sounds really nice. Now when you learn a sequence like this or a pattern, it's important when you apply it to a musical context. You don't really want to play the whole thing. Sometimes just the top notes are a really nice sound. You know, you can make melodies with just that. Sometimes that's all you need. So there's the shape.
Up next, Andy Timmons shows us how to find melodies just by using triads. So you're looking for that melodic content wherever you can find it. And triads, which of course are the chord tones, are a great place to develop some melodies.
Okay, so I hope you kind of hear the melodic material already starting to develop in those simple triads. You know, it instantly inspired me to want to play some melodies. So what I want to do now is let's look at each set of inversions. I'm calling them, I guess, 3 positions of inversions, starting here in that second position. So let's look at now, instead of necessarily playing the actual chord, but let those inversions now be our kind of guideposts for some strong melodic choices, right? So what I'm doing is I'm kind of visualizing that triad and then voice leading into the next triad. That D really strongly wants to go to that C sharp of the A major chord. But that wants to lead to the D of the B minor chord. That wants to lead to that B of the... Some of that's kind of resolving into thirds, some aren't, but... Okay, and if I take it up to that next set of triads... And this is some of the concepts from the earlier set of etudes where I might approach that third from a scalar note below. You can even simplify the idea by just purely arpeggiating the triads. I was talking about that Elton John song earlier where he was purely just kind of, you could apply that same idea here. So visualizing these triads and then adding, using them as single note arpeggios or adding some of the scalar material around it. So let me do a playthrough now where I demonstrate some of these basic techniques.
Dweezil Zappa shows us how to resequence phrases in this next lesson, taking a basic phrase or pattern, but then moving it around to get the most mileage out of it that you can.
Let's look at another version of the pentatonic box. We're going to look at it as 3 notes per string, and it's going to look more like a scale now. And we're going to talk about how to use it and how to resequence the notes in different ways as a 3 note per string pattern. So first, in a normal ascending pattern, it would sound like this. And what we've done is we've basically taken the regular pentatonic box and we've made it a 3 note per string pattern, which means you've added your neighbor to the right. Remember we talked about that. So that's the regular version, and then we add this 3rd note. The regular version, and then the 3rd note. And then the regular version, and the 3rd note. Regular version, 3rd note, regular version, 3rd note, regular version, 3rd note. All together. Now that is an effective way to create a pentatonic scale that you can run through 3 notes per string. But you can hear that and you can see that it's fairly predictable in the sound of how it's contoured. You know it's going ascending, but it's also got a couple unison notes in there. Now if you want to avoid that sound, you can resequence this 3 note per string idea, and you can do it a couple of different ways. Now here's the first way. Instead of starting as the root note and continuing up, which would be in this fingering, 1st finger, 3rd finger, 4th finger, I'm going to actually start with my 3rd finger, then go to my 1st finger, and then to my 4th. So it has this sound. And you'll see when I continue the pattern up the scale, it's going to be a more musical sound because it's less predictable. So it sounds like this. Now that sound is a really different sound when you start using it all connected. That kind of sound is pretty cool. It sounds more intervallic. And you can use it by picking all of the notes, or you can just do hammer-ons like I've been demonstrating. So I'm really just taking the 1st note and striking it, and then pulling off, and then doing a hammer-on, and doing the next thing on the next string the same way. So that is one way, but what if you did 4, 1, 3? So that's different than, you can see, you can mix them up as you go. you can have all these different options of resequencing. You can figure out what they are. You basically have your stock one, you have 4, 1, 3, 3, 1, 4, or 3, 4, 1. I actually like that one a lot. So that's very different than just doing, we're using all the same notes. But you're just getting a different result by changing that contour. Rhythmically, it also sounds more effective. I like that kind of sound more than the predictable. So now that you have that idea of the sequencing, you can start applying it to the different positions of the scale. So you have this box that we've created here. But what about over here? So all I'm doing is I'm taking the different variations of what this scale is. We've talked about where these positions are, and all I'm doing is taking that extra step of resequencing the notes in different combinations with, instead of just predictable ascending or descending, you just mix and match. So really, that's one of my favorite things to do, to take what you already know and utilize it in a very new way. You could even take a scale that's like a very specific, like Dorian mode kind of sound, and do the same kind of thing. So essentially, all I'm saying is, it works on all of the scales that you know. You can resequence any scale that you've practiced ascending and descending. Stop practicing that way and start utilizing this new resequencing of the notes, and you'll have so much more musical results.
In this last lesson, Tim Miller shows us how to get that Mixolydian sound using arpeggios for some really cool melodic sounding solos.
Now let's look at some creative ways that we can use the Mixolydian 2-1-2-1-2-1 arpeggios in improvisation. Now let's take this arpeggio and discuss one of the unique things about it. You'll notice that there's a double note there. It's the same note. We can really use this while we're soloing. I like to use this figure, play different rhythms with it, maybe some triplets, 16ths, and then go up the rest of the arpeggio. Maybe a scale run, back to the doubled note. Play some melodies, back to the arpeggio.
Well, all right. I hope you really dug this episode of TrueFire's Guitar Shed. There's a lot of cool tips in this episode that will help you spice up your soloing. As always, I'm Jeff Sheets, and I want you to keep working out in the shed.